Hey guys, to help run the forums, host the website, and travel, we've introduced a universal service fee for in-depth coverage, including this video. The goal is to be transparent and unbiased. This is not an endorsement. It's a privilege to serve you. Let's get into it. Hey guys, what's going on? The sun has come out here on the Delaware River and we are checking out the electric EcoTad from Electric Bike Technologies. And this time we're going to have Alec in here with us. Alec, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. I'm so glad to have you here, Mikey.
Oh, thanks. So Alec's going to be answering some of the questions and going over kind of the specs with me on the EcoTad because it's kind of peculiar. You know, it's not quite like a race car sort of electric recumbent, which they got one of those too. It's not upright, certainly. And it's kind of a stripped down thing, you know, very approachable. So let's go ahead and jump into the specs because it's a pretty interesting bike. I know I just said bike, but it's a trike, clearly. So yeah, that's one thing about this vehicle is that it's got 3 wheels. It is a trike. It's a recumbent trike in the sense that the rider is kind of sitting back. It's not an upright the way that that one would be. So aside from the wheel placement, that one, the rider is more upright, sitting like, you know, like a trike that you'd see a kid on, but scaled up. So in this one, the rider is kind of back, more towards the center of it, and the wheels are kind of extended out front with their legs going forward instead of legs going down. So that's kind of the concept of what you're looking at here. But this bike is pretty, you know, pretty down to business. It has a pretty straight set of steel frame right here. So this is the frame and it kind of extends all the way back. So they do this to kind of keep the cost down. It's a steel frame, like I said, with an adjustable boom right here. This is the boom area that kind of goes forward and backward. That is the main adjustment point for the rider. Because of course the seat doesn't move nearly as easily as a bicycle seat. So this one is meant to kind of customize that to get the right angle.
Yeah, and you can also slide the seat along the boom as well. So you've got a second point to adjust it from on this particular model. So you can slide the seat forward and backward just sort of that quickly if you want to make a small adjustment without fiddling with the boom. And that's using a quick release lever over here, like on a bike seat, in order to dial in your fit length there.
Okay. So yeah, that's a pretty cool thing that you can adjust the seat. You got to kind of get underneath the bike to find that lever and then pull it out. But it's pretty nice because you've seen other ones that have like just a couple of points where the seat can sit, but this one has quite a lot of variance in it. Coming up to just the component level that you have on the bike. So it does have some mechanical disc brakes that are mounted right here on the inside, I guess what you'd call the inside of the wheel here. And these are Pro Max mechanical disc brakes, Pro Max 300. And it has the piston that kind of squeezes in on this 160 millimeter rotor that's on either side. So this trike does have brakes in the front, but it doesn't have a brake in the back. When you're riding on a trike such as this, brakes on the front are quite critical, but on the back brake, the wheel just kind of winds up trolleying behind. It doesn't do a whole lot of the stopping power as done back there on the back wheel. So having brakes up front, it might sound alarming, but it's actually just fine. So this bike is using a 20 by 1.5 tire. These are Kenda Quest tires. They're kind of like a road tire you would see. We kind of have it positioned here in the gravel just for the sake of the review. But I generally keep these on the road. It's kind of what this is made for. It's kind of like a, you know, almost like a comfy cruiser sort of thing. Like if someone wants to get into the electric recumbent trikes, this is a really good approachable model to do so. I wouldn't call it mission specific for like off-road, certainly, but it's pretty, you know, pretty diverse. So coming up to the handlebars, I guess you would kind of call this kind of cross member here sort of takes the place of where a handlebar would rest, kind of lower, and then in the stem you have the handlebar actually extending up into here, which, by the way, this is a good spot for a bottle cage. If you want to put a bottle cage there or a pump or some other accessory, that's what these little spots are for. So the handlebars do extend up towards the rider and they kind of slope down a little bit. This is a really natural place for the handlebars to be because as you're sitting, just like you're going to go somewhere, your hands kind of meet it very naturally. I mean, the reach on this thing is like 8 inches or something. So it's really kind of a different measurement than what you would see on a bicycle where your weight is forward and the rider is extended their body forward as a result. This one, the rider's kind of laid back, and as a result, the handlebars kind of come back to meet them. So these brake levers do have a cutoff signal being sent. It's called a brake inhibitor, in which there is an electric there is an electric component in here. When you squeeze on the brakes, separates that little magnet in here, and that sends a signal down to the motor, so you're never fighting against it. Anytime you hit the brakes, the motor will stop the power, even if you're pedaling, even if you are twisting on the throttle. While we're up here, these are some friction mounted grips. They're pretty basic grips that also coincide with the throttle. So these kind of have like this little cutouts here for kind of hand placement. That also matches on the other side for the throttle. So it kind of gives a nice flush look to it, or a distinct look, I should say. While we're on this side, this is the rear shifter, or the shifter for the rear set of gears. So you have only one set of shifters on this bike. You don't have a chainring up front that you got to goof with on any gears, which is really good because it kind of simplifies the whole bike. It makes it very easy to get into. You don't have to worry about switching from one side to the other, pedal assist, throttle. Like, there's a lot of controls that are available for recumbent bikes and also electric bicycles. But in this way, it keeps it very streamlined, very easy to get into. So if you wanted to get a trike to share with somebody else, that should be a good idea, because then they can go off and not break anything. Coming up to the front of the bike, this is the single chainring up front, and this is a 38 tooth, and it actually has the guard on both sides of the chainring, which is kind of nice. So this kind of protects your pants from getting caught in here and then eaten up by the gears, which is a really nice thing to have. Of course, this is a mount for the reflector. You have 170 millimeter cranks up in the front with these pedals that have kind of like a little aluminum outer to it with the reflector on the side, but you have a plastic kind of connection point for the metal post in the middle. There is also the cadence sensor that's built into the chainring up in the front, and we'll talk about that a little bit when we get to the electric side of things. So as I kind of mentioned earlier, the boom extends in or out of this blue tube, and these are the set screws to kind of keep it in place. So you'd undo that, kind of extend it or push it back in, screw these back in, and then you're ready to rock. The chain is encompassed by this tubing here. So this is like a plastic PVC tube that kind of keeps the chain also out from getting your pants dirty, and it's connected here by kind of like this fender looking sort of bracket here. And that's a really nice touch because it's really easy to get in and out of this trike. Very easy. The step through height is pretty low. It's about 13 inches off the ground for standover height. And with that, you kind of stand over in this position, then sink your backside back into there. And so having this covered is really nice because you don't have to worry about anything goofing up your pants or anything like that. It's nice and clean. It keeps you nice and clean too. So while we're moving back, let's go ahead and talk about the steering linkage. So you'll see this crossbar right here that is adjustable if you wanted to goof with it, but it is set from the factory. But this is your steering linkage system. This allows the trike to turn based on the movement of only one hand. So you can steer with only one hand, and they're connected together by this little kingpin right here that holds the brake and also connects the two together. So that's pretty good. So if you had some kind of physical considerations or perhaps an amputee, with one hand you can still steer. Braking, you'd be braking on only one side, so you might have to customize that if that's, you know, a consideration for you, because this right hand brake is for the right wheel, likewise with the left. Moving on back, this is a pretty cool seat. As you can tell, it's not like a regular bike seat, which a lot of recumbent folks really enjoy the seat above all else. The seat has this mesh pad that kind of goes around this bar here. So the bar is on the outside, I guess perimeter you'd call it, of this seat, and in the middle is mesh. So you don't have like a big bar that you're sitting on top of. You don't have a post that is sinking in. It's actually almost like a little bit of a hammock kind of feel. There's other seats that are much more reclined that very much feel like a hammock, but this one's pretty good. It feels kind of like a lawn chair in a lot of ways is how I would describe it. It does have that mount over there in the front that Alec was showing us adjust pretty quickly, but you also have this brace in the back if you wanted to customize it even further. So there's these set pins that go into a different rail, or go into a different size on this railing, so you can actually extend the seat up or down on these rear brace. And that's pretty cool because this seat, like a lot of seats, carries a fair amount of weight, and it's nice to have an additional mount over here so that you can kind of lean back and not worry about anything coming off. The controller is an air-cooled controller that's mounted in the back of the seat right there. Really easy access if for some reason you wanted to switch it out or needed to. The guys over at the shop, they can totally help you out with that, which is a great thing, as these guys are based here in Pennsylvania. Is that right?
Yeah,
yeah.
Absolutely. And on that subject, you know, since we've been working on this kit for so long, you know, we've been in business since 2008, and we've been refining our kits the whole time. This system on this trike, everything is modular. So if there's something that you need to work on, all of the cabling, the throttle, the screen, the battery, everything is accessible and is pretty easy to work on at your local bike shop or yourself. And I really loved how, Mikey, you noticed all of the convenient details of the trike as far as like comfort and accessibility. This is like if you want to, you haven't been able to see somebody sit on it from like a third-person view quite yet, but the when you're approaching this trike, like the low step over and the relatively high seat, a lot of recumbents, and you notice how I can even like lean on the handlebars as I sit. And these brakes, they'll lock in place so it can't roll away from you. I can lean on the bars and ease myself down. And as far as recumbent bikes and trikes go, a lot of the time you don't get a seating position this high. A lot of recumbents will put your feet above your waist, which tends to be less comfortable, although it's a lot more aerodynamic. On this is more like a normal bike position in some ways. Even though your feet are up, your hands are also up instead of being down below the seat. You have the one shifter that Mikey mentioned. Instead of having to shift with both hands, you can just shift with one hand, and it's really simple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, instead of maybe shifting the big ring and then 2 shifts on the back, etc. So this is like the simple, affordable, approachable recumbent instead of a really high-tech, hard to access recumbent. And the electrical system that we were looking through is similar. It's really accessible. You can see all the parts, you can service all the parts if you need to.
So yeah, Alec brings up a really good point that with recumbent trikes, there isn't a huge offering for recumbent trikes, especially on the electric side. There's a fairly narrow one, and there are a whole wide amount of different customers and motivations that would lead someone to want an electric recumbent. So as a result, you get a lot of them that are far off in one direction or far off in another direction. And this one, like Alec was saying, is very easy to get into, very approachable. So if you're, I guess, recumbent curious, this would be a good one to start out with. All right, so with the electric system, it's actually a pretty simple setup. You have a cadence-based pedal assist system. You got a display up on the left-hand side of the handlebars, which, by the way, you can customize that. You have a throttle on the right-hand side, and you have a 500-watt geared motor in the back. With a 48-volt, this is actually the 10 amp hour version that we have here. That's a quick overview. Let me tell you about what it does. So go ahead and start it up, Alec. He's going to press the mode button on the grip attachment there, and that's going to turn on the electric system. So right there in the middle, you can see your current speed. At the moment, we're not going anywhere, but there is an up or down arrow right here that will change the assistance level. So right now you can see Alec is scrolling up and down. It goes between 0 and 5. That gives you your pedal assist. It also caps the throttle. So the throttle is also tied to this. So that means that if you're in level 1, it would have a top speed, a comfortable top speed of somewhere around, I don't know, like 8 miles an hour. I'm kind of pulling a number out of a hat. And when you increase the number from 1 to 2, then that speed limit is kind of increased. It also changes the curve of the assistance to match that as well. So it's not like a hard cap that feels like a wall. It's actually really comfortable, regardless of which setting you have it in. On the bottom, you have your variable display, which by default shows the odometer, and that cycles through between trip A, trip B, as well as maximum speed, average speed. And that's controlled on the switch with a little mode button on the very bottom. And that's the most of it. You do have your battery level that's shown on kind of this ruler motif up at the very top that has these notches that kind of tick down as you expend the battery. Right now we're fully charged, so we're good to go. And this is on the mount here. This mount is pretty cool because it's quite adjustable. You can change the tilt of it, you can change the tilt of the arm, the tilt of the actual unit, you can rotate it on the handlebars itself. It does consume this spot that would have been used for a bottle cage if you wanted to do that, but you've always got the other side over there and you can switch it if you need to.
And even the back of the seat, if you really love bottle cages.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
You've got two mounts, one on either side of the rear of the seat frame.
Okay, so yeah, Alec makes a good point that you have these two spots for a bottle cage or for a pump or something else that you wanted to attach, as well as the two that you got up front. So you got lots of space back there. So the pedal assist, we'll kind of run up to the front of the bike. Alec is sitting and pedaling backwards just for the illustration, but when you're going the opposite way forwards, these little magnets pass by the counter, and that's what engages pedal assist. As you pedal, the magnets pass by that counter. That's what actually gets the bike moving. That's how it knows that you want some assistance. And when you're coasting, when you're not moving the pedals at all, when you're just kind of going flat, that's how it knows not to assist you. And this is all being powered by the 48 volt battery in the back. This particular one is the 48 volt 10 amp hour battery. And this one is in the metal case that also has that fitted rack in the back of the bike. You can actually save a couple bucks if you wanted to get a slightly smaller 48 volt 9 amp hour battery. That one goes into a bag that you can strap to a rack. It comes with a rack. It's a different style, but it comes with that rack in a bag. So you save a little bit of money there. Also a 9 amp hour over a 10 is a little bit smaller. So you're saving a couple bucks there. If you wanted to go higher, you can actually get that same bag and rack system with a 48 volt 20 amp hour, which is double the capacity of this 48 volt 10 amp hours. So it does add to the weight. You do have considerations. Honestly, I like this one because it's in a nice metal case, locks into position. You can take that key with you. So personally, I like it. But yeah, it's up to you. Whatever you want to get. So coming back down to the electrics, we have the e-bike kit branded 500 watt geared motor. So e-bike kit, if you didn't know, is a sister company of ElectricBikeReview.com and also Electric Bike Technologies. They're all under one roof, and that's how you get so many options for customization, because these guys are located here and they've been doing this for quite a long time. And you can tell, it kind of shows in their product lineup. They have quite a lot of variety, including something like this, which is not terribly common within the electric bike world. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump on the trike and take it for a spin. So here we are on the Eco Tad. It's actually not so bad, They have the other bike, the Fat Tad, which has a lot of really cool upgrades to it compared to this one. I guess it's just a different design. This one does feel a little stiff when you're turning. It's pretty tight as far as turning is concerned. When you get past a certain miles per hour, I mean, myself, I would say, I don't know, somewhere around like 10 miles an hour or so, you definitely want to be careful about your turning. Because if you're rocketing down about 15 miles an hour or so and you take a tight turn, then you're totally going over, But, that's really kind of outside the use for this sort of vehicle. You're definitely meant to kind of take it easy. It's what recumbent trikes do best, just kind of stop and smell the roses, kind of cycling. And the riding position shows that, and you can tell I'm quite easily riding the bike with no hands. I got the camera in one and this one in the other, and it does pretty good. Holds straight, holds firm even on a slightly bumpy road that we're here. So yeah, it does really well. You can steer with one hand, steer very easily based on the tight turning, which is nice. And your legs are out front. It just feels really good. The electric system is nice because the pedal assist is really easy. With a cadence-based pedal assist system, you can just sit there and rotate the cranks like I'm doing now, and that's enough. You don't have to keep a lot of tension on the chain. You don't have to be pressing and working really hard in order to get the vehicle moving. The pedals are just kind of like a different way of asking for more help. So it does really good. The throttle's nice because you can just goose that throttle and kind of get into a nice position if you got to go over an obstacle, or if you just got a tight spot, or maybe you didn't shift gears quite appropriately. So yeah, this is really fun. I definitely wouldn't classify this as an off-road vehicle by any means. You kind of get off-road a little bit here, and it's pretty rigid. You have no suspension on this other than the seat, which the seat honestly is pretty good for that purpose if you get on a small bit of patchy stuff. But comfort is not really the big concern. It's really just being able to keep your lines, being able to keep the bike from spinning out, tipping over, losing too much momentum. So yeah, not my best choice for off-road. The Fat Tad does it so much better because the Fat Tad has the wider tires, has the suspension, it's a little bit longer. So yeah, that's what I would say that's for. So I'm kind of getting away from myself a little bit. Let me show you the bike in a little more detail. So up here at the front, you'll see that's where the pedals are, which is quite different from most bikes. The steering, like I said, a little bit tight. You can just do a little bit of tiny adjustments and the bike kind of moves. So if you're going too fast and you kind of take a turn, the wheels, or the tires rather, will kind of scrub against the pavement and lift off a little bit. But again, that's if you're going a little bit too fast. It'll do that. So having the motor in the back is great because it gives you this really nice acceleration, this push factor. And also having the display there is pretty good because it's nice and close to you. You can see what's going on without having it extended way out front. So I like the placement of that. Altogether, it's really good. You know, for a bike like this that's kind of like your entry level into electric recumbents, it's pretty good. You know, I don't have any kind of complaints. All right, so here we are back here. You can see the 500 watt geared motor. You kind of got the gears on the other side as well. There's the torque arm on this side. I forgot to mention the torque arm here. So the motor itself kind of puts out a lot of torque, a little bit much for the steel frame. So they have this additional spot here to kind of absorb some of that torque and kind of displace the energy. So yeah, it's a pretty cool thing. Let's go ahead and take it for a spin. So I did a little bit of a brake test there. We were going about 20 miles an hour as we came to that stop. So yeah, it does really good, especially on a straightaway. You feel nice and stable. So yeah, it's fun stuff. Okay guys, thanks for checking out the electric EcoTad with me from Electric Bike Technologies. There's actually one thing I forgot to mention, and that is that this trike will actually come to you more or less custom made for your sizing. So the folks over at Electric Bike Technologies, such as Alec over here, when you go to order the trike, they'll actually ask you for some measurements, some specific ones, so that they can get the right leg length and also the height, so that the trike is actually set up and sent to you that way, so you don't have to do any kind of fiddling to get it set right. So that's actually a pretty cool thing. So yeah, is there anything else that you wanted to cover, Alec?
If you guys have any questions or need any help, feel free to call us up, visit our website, and we've got people here to help you out. And if you're interested in any of our trikes, bikes, or other products, we'll be able to help you find what's right for you.
Yeah, thanks Alec. Yeah, they have lots of options, and more of that you can find on ElectricBikeReview.com, because we're going to be reviewing this one, of course, and also the Fat Tad, as well as a grip of other trikes. So yeah, go to ElectricBikeReview.com if you want to see the full specifications and measurements that we've done for this trike while we've got it. As well, you can participate in the forum, and you can ask a question or kind of interact with the community if you'd like to do that too. So thanks for watching, guys. Ride safe.